So we're now 93A, the Tzaddik Yom Aleph. Anybody come up with anything for some homework yesterday?
I look at the Meforshim, nothing really complex.
Nothing really comes.
Obvious, of course, that this spit is obviously a metaphor.
I'm talking about the other three.
Yeah, so the thing is, the point they make, which is true, the Marsha says, and also my add to it, the fact that Levi did a great miracle, mitzvah, should have something like followed afterwards. And neither from Hashem's point of view nor from the Nebuchadnezzar, he was not given special honor. So it seems, the Meforshim say that somehow, even though they did a nace, it somehow had a negative impact on the people. It didn't elevate the people. That's why there was ayin hara, or the non-Jewish spirit. The Jews, like the Jews, should have done tshuva. It seems that they didn't have.
So where I was suggesting each explanation is progressively better, you're saying all of them are a disassociation from Jewish people. They went to Eretz Yisrael alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, whereas I was and
they weren't given in there either. They could come. This was became I don't know.
Anything with the connection to the next three things about what Daniel is doing.
Yeah, they connect with the three players. That's what Yaakov wants.
The three.
With Hashem's plan and the Neil's plan and Nebuchadnezzar's plan.
So going to build a river.
Would be
Daniel's building a river while the Chaim.
Yeah, I looked at the modern Gemara is a little like Perushim. The Yahweh says because the water at the very was brackish because near the sea, so he wanted good water, so he provided water for it.
They're on a physical level.
Physical, yeah. Then Daniel's just I guess promote agriculture, whatever, and of course Nebuchadnezzar won pigs.
That's simple enough.
Yeah, but I agree, but nothing really compelling as compared to. But the point is, it's well taken that a great miracle was done, and there's no follow-up, neither from Hashem's point of view nor the people.
Yeah. So in the third one, there's a follow-up. There's in the fact that they moved to Israel and had children. That's a follow-up in and of itself.
Yeah, but you'd expect much more.
Much more.
Country Moffat should have been later appointed as administration in the temple or something else. Because I mentioned Mordechai, for example, he left there to Israel and became like the charge of the bird offerings in the base of Mikdash.
Who's that?
Mordechai, yeah. He got some position here. They got nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was suggesting that going up to Israel meant going up with the Jewish people. But anyway, that was my suggestion. It doesn't have to be read that way.
Yeah, but there's nothing mentioned in Tanakh about them. We should have gotten some kind of award or whatever.
Anshe Mephis is a title, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but something should have followed from that. Nothing. Okay. That's the portion point now.
So I was thinking about this, and perhaps as follows. Perhaps, ulai. So if my reading of from yesterday is correct about the three levels of the tzaddik, Rav, Shmuel, and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav says that Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah died of ayin hara. In other words, that they were separate from the Jewish people to the point that the Jewish people were jealous of them. And that's what ayin hara is, and they died. I have view number 2, they drowned in the spittle of the nations. That is to say, even though the nations weren't mocking them, because they didn't bow down to idols, the nations were mocking other Jews, but they weren't so detached from the Jewish people as to not be affected. On the contrary, they were extremely empathetic to the pain the Jewish people were going through, and thus died of the spittle of the nations. Metaphorically, they died in the pain of that the nations were causing their fellow Jews. And then level 3, if I'm correct in my reading, they ascended to Israel, meaning to say they ascended to Israel with the other Jewish people, as if to say they not only were empathetic, but they actually helped in the elevation of the Jewish people going forward. So if that's correct, perhaps we can think of the three things that Neil was doing while they were away as the antidote or the next level of what Chaim, Mishael, and Azariah weren't doing after they were done. So let's see. Rav says that Chaim, Mishael, and Azariah died of ayin hara, of jealousy of other people. So they were disconnected from the rest of the people to the point that the other Jews were jealous of them and therefore causing the ayin hara. What was Daniel doing according to Rav? He was digging wells in Tiberia.
But how
not only
permits to let the people do ayin hara if it's a tzaddik.
Everybody has free choice.
That's not his question.
Yeah, my question: how come Hashem permits those people to make ayin hara?
Right. So which means that Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah weren't such high level.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point. That means Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah weren't such a high level. Right, that's the first level. Means that they weren't so high. They weren't high enough to avoid ayin hara.
Himself, he did the ayin hara.
No, we did talk about this in the past that ayin hara, a person has to.
Because he puts
A person has to. We talked about this before. How ayin hara is, if someone else is jealous of me, and I assume that what I have I deserve, then ayin hara affects me. But if I assume that everything I have is from God, then Einhard, the jealousy, doesn't affect me. So yeah, that's right. Chananel and Mishav Azariah weren't on a perfect level of tzaddik according to this opinion. That's the point we're making. So the antidote to that is Daniel is making digging rivers in Tiberia. So on two levels. First of all, even if you're taking it literally, digging wells, who's he digging a river for? The Gemara said that he built a Nahar Rabbah, a great well, a great river in Tiberia. Well, rivers are not for singular people, for people alone. They're for more than one person. That's the nature of a river. A well, maybe you can say it's my private property, no one else can use it. But a river is clearly for more than myself. And a great river. So Daniel is actually doing the opposite, whereas Hanan and Mishav Azariah or others are jealous of them. In Rav's view, Daniel is caring for others by big digging rivers. And moreover, you can go metaphorical, Ein Mayim El Torah. Torah is compared to water. Digging the great well in Tveria, digging the great river in Tveria, could be metaphor for teaching Torah en masse. So whereas they're separated from the Jewish people, both physically and spiritually, to the point that others are jealous of them, Daniel is providing for others, physically and spiritually. Spreading the mayonis of Torah, spreading the...
I like the what? The river is moving.
The river is moving, he's teaching, so that's could be the first level. The next level is Rabbi Shmuel's view, which is that Hanan and Mishav Azariah died after the play, after they came out of the furnace from the spittle of the nations. Right? So they were very empathetic to the Jewish people, right? And that they died in the pain of the fact that the nations of the world are making fun of other Jews. Right? But they didn't do anything about it. What caused the nations of the world to make fun of the Jews? That they were bowing down to idols. They didn't do anything about it. They just died in their empathy and connection to them. They died in the pain that the Jews were going through that were being saved, but they didn't do anything about it.
Instead of reprimanding them or something like that.
Or elevating them at least. Elevating them. And what's Daniel doing? Daniel is getting alfalfa seeds from getting choice alfalfa seeds. Alfalfa seed, we said, is what? Animal fodder. So metaphorically speaking, perhaps, why are the Jewish people bowing down to idols? From their animal soul, not from their godly soul. So Daniel is involved in elevating their animal soul. He's trying to elevate them from the problem that they had when they were bowing down to idols. So whereas Hanan and Mishav Azariah died in the fact that they were empathetic, they were feeling the pain, but they didn't do anything about that. They didn't elevate the Jewish people's state. Daniel is getting alfalfa seeds. He's getting animal fodder, that is to say, he's trying to elevate their animal soul. He's inspired them to elevate their animal soul so that they no longer will bow down to idols. Doing something about the cause of Hanan and Mishav Azariah's death.
Why wouldn't he
Perhaps.
be involved with wheat? You're talking about animal feed. Why is animal feed elevating?
Sorry?
What's the point?
No,
How is animal feed
Actually,
elevating
interestingly enough,
wheat
wheat is a human food, but usually actually sa'odim. Usually barley is animal food.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Alfalfa is
Even lower.
choice. No, it's choice.
But no, it's lower than that because at least barley can be used for people and for animals, but
Right.
But primarily for it's not for mizbeach. Wheat, the barley is often mizbeach for the soul.
Here it says it's choice alfalfa. So I don't know where I picked that up
It's
from.
choice, but still
It's a lower level. Anyway,
it's Michael Bain. It's not for people.
Yeah. Feeding them in the sense that, I'll put it this way,
Yeah,
the animal soul, the animal soul is not meant to be gotten rid of. If it's gotten rid of, then you don't eat, sleep, and drink. Animal soul, we call it animal soul, call it natural soul, if you will. It's a better word for it. There's another word Dr. uses for the same thing. It's just like an animal wants to eat, sleep, and drink, so the human beings want to eat, sleep, and drink. It's not a negative sense necessarily, right? But it has to be redirected in the right direction, right? So a good tzaddik doesn't just teach Torah, but teaches you how to elevate your animal soul as well, how to redirect your natural human instincts in the service of Hashem. So the natural instinct that led them to serving idols should be redirected in a positive way, unless he's getting animal food, perhaps. And then the next level, Rabbi Yochanan says that Hanan and Mishav Azariah actually went up to Eretz Yisrael, and if we're correct here, then they went up to Eretz Yisrael with the Jewish people, so it's a positive thing. They're elevating the state of the Jewish people. And what's Daniel doing? Daniel's getting small pigs, smuggling them out of Egypt.
Sorry?
Smuggling small pigs out of Egypt, as we described yesterday. This is according to Rabbi Yochanan, which this is where Daniel is, while Hanan and Mishav Azariah are in the...
To bring to Nebuchadnezzar.
To bring to Nebuchadnezzar.
To feed Nebuchadnezzar.
Correct.
which means perhaps as follows. The Gemara, the Medrash says, it's a marvelous Medrash, in the sense that it's mind-blowing a little bit, that when Mashiach comes, Aset Chazir Litar, that the pig will become kosher. What does this mean? There's all kinds of explanations. This metaphor, what the metaphor means and what it means. The Rabbi actually understands it literally. And how is it possible? Because when Mashiach comes, and the spiritual nature of the world changes, in that there's no more impurity, so when spiritual change happens, it manifests in physical change, and that the nature of the pig will change.
You're also talking
The physical nature, let me finish. The physical nature of the pig will change so that it becomes kosher. So the pig that you're eating when Mashiach comes is not the same pig you're eating now. It's a pig that's changed its nature that it becomes kosher. Whoever explains it.
Chew its cud?
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. So it would seem to start. Well, it'll start chewing its cud. So now Daniel, not only is he providing for the Jewish people spiritually, digging water, not only is he providing for the Jewish people and elevating their animal soul and bringing alfalfa seed, animal fodder, but not only that, he's actually transforming the exile. He's working at, in other words, Hanan B'Shav Azariah here, elevating the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael, but he's going with the Jewish people to a place of seclusion, to Eretz Yisrael, and the rest of the nations of the world remain where it is. And Daniel is a step further. Daniel is getting pig, the non-kosher animal, for Nebuchadnezzar, and from Egypt, which is a place of the lowest of impurity. That is to say, he's not only elevating the state of the Jewish people, but elevating the entire world, including the lowest of them, the pig itself. So at each level, whatever Hanan, Mishael, Azariah are doing, and the same person, Daniel, is doing one step above. Hanan, Mishael, Azariah in the first level is jealous, he failed to connect to the Jewish people. The response, Daniel is one step above, providing spiritually for the Jewish people, digging the wells. Hanan, Mishael, Azariah is dying of spittle, so they're connecting to the Jewish people, not doing anything about it. Daniel's next up, he's bringing animal fodder, elevating their animal soul, which is what made them bow down to idols in the first place. Next level, the Hanan and Mishael are elevating with the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael. Daniel is even higher, and he's elevating the world itself, bringing pigs for Nebuchadnezzar.
Look at this. Torah, mitzvahs, redemption.
Torah,
mitzvahs.
Is in water. Mitzvah is performance with the animal soul.
Perform the mitzvahs with your animal soul. To do the right thing. One is
and then finally, Mashiach transformation of that, which is...
It's a progression.
Yeah. So perhaps these are three things that line up here.
And the essence of the word, the pig.
Good day. Shabbos, thank you.
Is chazir, which means return. In other words, you're talking about the final return.
Yeah. Where it's elevation, not just to the Jewish people, Allah to Israel, they go to Israel, but the whole world gets elevated.
Very negative in the context of messianism.
Yeah, that's correct. In other words, it's progression, not just Allah to Israel, like Hanan Mishav Azariah went up to Israel, but actually the whole world gets elevated. In the similar context, the Medrash says that Asad Eretz Yisrael is Pashit B'chol Ha'aratzis. Israel will be expanded over the whole world. What does it mean physically? The borders of Israel expand? It means the state of spirituality of Israel becomes expanded. The whole world gets elevated to that space, including Egypt, including the pig, so to speak. And this is what Daniel is involved with. Not just the Jews should go to Eretz Yisrael, like Hanan Mishav Azariah, but one step forward.
So is this a
perhaps
stock at the three of them, that Daniel, or indirect, that Daniel's at a higher level than them? And
there's a number of places where both scripture. There's a number of places where where both scripture and the Gemara implicates that Daniel was at a higher level.
Okay.
Clearly. It's called that, and the most famous of them is in Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah says, the verse says, well, it's a verse and then the Gemara explains it, but the verse says that the four of them were walking down the street, and Daniel saw an angel, or
The Gemara Megillah, yeah.
The Gemara Megillah quotes this verse that I think it was an angel, that Daniel sees an angel, and the other three, Hanan, Mishael, Azariah, didn't see it, but they trembled. And the Gemara explains why they trembled, because their spiritual counterpart, known as a Mazel, saw it, and therefore they trembled in the physical world. So right there you see Daniel's at a higher level already. He's seeing things that they're not. They're affected by that, but they don't see it. Right? So the fact that Daniel's at a higher level is not, God forbid, a shtach on anybody.
No,
but it's just it's just a statement of the fact.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's a better way of putting it.
It would still be more perfect if I were able to connect this to the three different people, or in the Eitzah, the three different parties, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Daniel, and Nebuchadnezzar. It would be interesting to see if I can connect them. The first level, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Daniel himself should be saved. Daniel is concerned. The next level is being concerned with other, I don't know, with mitzvahs. Torah.
Daniel, the mitzvah.
Daniel mitzvah says he doesn't want the mitzvah. He doesn't want to be used for an avera. And then finally Nebuchadnezzar,
Elevate
who's the non-Jew itself should be elevated. Yeah, so maybe it could fit there too. Anyway, so we have a few minutes. I want to begin the next Gemara. We'll continue covering next week. Yeah.
Is Nebuchadnezzar mentioned because he was the one who conquered Egypt?
Sorry?
Isn't he the one who conquered Egypt?
Nebuchadnezzar conquered. Yeah, he conquered the whole world, didn't he? But Nebuchadnezzar Bilbo Sa'olam, right? Nebuchadnezzar conquered the whole world and moved people all over the place. Sanhedrin, sorry. But Nebuchadnezzar inherited that.
Inherited, yeah, but he was given to him by God. It was a Satan.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. It's going from Egypt pig to Nebuchadnezzar, like if the baton's being passed along the way.
The baton's being passed as in the power of the power that Egypt used to wield and is now in the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah, but it would have gone through other places before it got to Nebuchadnezzar. It would, like you mentioned, it would have gone through Sanhedrin. Since Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, but maybe symbolically speaking, that which Egypt represents in Scripture is now in Nebuchadnezzar's hand. But if we're going to add that, then the fact that Daniel is doing that bringing means it's the transformation of it, not the negative of it.
Yeah, but Daniel was also involved deeply with Nebuchadnezzar.
Right. What do we say? That when Mashiach comes, the prophecy is that those who are abandoned in the land of Egypt will come, meaning even the lowest of places. That's perhaps part of this also. And then the metaphor of the pig specifically, the most unclean of animals, right? Means even the most unclean of places is being elevated. At any rate, okay. Let's at least begin the next Gemara. Next Gemara gets to two people who are playing false prophet, and their end, and what they try to do. So it's pretty. It's an interesting story, put it that way. But it's obviously always packaged in explanation of the verses. It doesn't read like a story from beginning to end, but rather the story will emerge in analyzation of the verses. So the verse says like this.
So where are we, by the way?
Oh, so we're in the middle of the page, so the Gimel Mad Aleph, 93a. Right in the middle of the page, a little bit lower in the middle, you'll see a colon, and then there's a chaf, and then it says Koyamar Hashem. V'goymer, colon, and Koyamar Hashem. Yes, that's correct. Koyamar Lakei Yisrael. Okay. So the pasuk says, Koyamar Hashem, such says God, Tzavokos, God the Lord of hosts, Elokei Yisrael, God of Israel. And God says as follows, El Achav ben Kulya, concerning Achav, son of Kulya, Vel Tzidkaya ben Maaseh, and concerning Tzidkaya, I think I'm pronouncing it right? Tzidkayahu. Ben Maaseh, okay, there's no vav there. Hanaviyim, which are prophesizing, Lachem, to you, B'shmi, in my name, L'shakar, as a lie. And the verse goes on to say, I will hand them over to Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar will give them their end that they deserve in prophesizing my name falsely. The Ksiv, and it says later, with respect to, it says elsewhere actually, I should say. No.
Next passage, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, next verse, yeah.
So it says, V'lakoyach mehem klola l'chol golus Yehuda, Kuya, and will be taken for them a curse for all those who are in exile from Judah, and Asher Bavel, which are now in Babylonia, meaning they're like the exiled from Judah. Lemur, saying, Yisim Hashem Kitzitkiyahu Ka'akav. In other words, anybody who wants to curse somebody else will say, may you be like Tzidkiyahu and Achav. Asher Kalam Melech Bavel, who have been toasted by the king of Babylonia, Be'esh, in a fire, and end quote.
Not even burnt, toasted.
Toasted. And that's what the Gemara points out, which is why I highlighted that word. Asher Sarfam Le'nemar, it doesn't say they were burnt. Ela Asher Kalam, but rather it says that they were toasted. So what's going on? Rabbi Yochanan says the name of Shimon Bar Yochai. Right, Rabbi Yochanan is the first generation of sages of the Amoraic age, of the Gemara age, and thus he serves as a bridge between the Tanaic age and the Amoraic age, or between Israel and Babylonia. And therefore Rabbi Yochanan could be speaking the name of Shimon Bar Yochai. Even though Shimon Bar Yochai is a Mishnaic age sage, and Rabbi Yochanan is an Amoraic age sage, a Gemara age sage, because he's right at that bridge. Shimon Bar Yochai is from the last generation, students of Rabbi Akiva, contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda, the last generation of the Tanaic age, and Rabbi Yochanan, the first generation of the Amoraic age. So Rabbi Yochanan tells us the name of Shimon Bar Yochai. Malamed, the teacher, Sha'asan Kikulyais, that he made them like toasted wheat, which is not just burnt, but actually toasted on all sides, which means it's kind of like as they're in the fire, they're being flipped around.
Like burned to a crisp.
Right, but it's not just, it's burnt to crisp. It's not just merely dyed, but actually like rotating them to make sure all sides get toasted. It's pretty gruesome. So now the Gemara is going to give us. So having stated that, now the Gemara is going to give us the backstory to what happened here. Oh, sorry. So the pasuk says, "Yan," considering the fact, or because Asher Osin available so they've done something disgusting. They've done baseness amongst the Jewish people. And they seduced, or they've been lewd with the wives of the wicked ones. So what these two, Achav and Tzidkiyahu, were doing something terrible with respect to women, lewdness in women. So my Ovid, what did they do? So that was end quote of the verse. Now the Gemara is analyzing. My Ovid, what did they do? And here's a really interesting story. Achav. So Achav went to the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. Right. Yeah. Whatever, fine. The way of reading it. They went to the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. Achav told her. In other words, first Achav goes to her. That's why I'm reading it the other way. It doesn't make a difference. Achav tells her first. Sorry?
The
conspiracy. Achav goes first to the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar and says, Kayamak, right, they're false prophecies. They're false prophets, so they say things in the name of God for their own benefit.
They were kings.
Achav, you're mixing up a different Achav.
Oh.
Mixing with different people. This is Achav and Tzidkiyahu. This is way later. Not way later, but a little bit later. A couple centuries later. A couple of decades later. Decades later.
You're right, it sounds the same. But
Decades later. Same names. But decades later, these are false prophets. So Achav and Tzidkiyahu, two false prophets, are conspiring for their own benefit using the name of God. Right? I have to explain this. I've said this before, that the prophets we hear quoting are not the majority of prophets. There were hundreds of prophets. There were schools of prophets.
Thousands.
Perhaps, but certainly schools of prophets. So the only prophets that are recorded are the prophets that were at such a level that their prophecy actually had bearing on future history, as opposed to in other words, prophecy was just a state of being in communion with Hashem, which anybody could reach. It doesn't necessarily mean that your communion with Hashem has any bearing for anybody else in life ever. But if someone's at a high level of prophecy, then it does have bearing in the future. So it was because of so many prophets, it was easier for someone to say, you know what, I'm going to be a false prophet, I'll mimic whatever they do, and if I'm a good enough actor, people can buy it. Right? So these people, that's what they were, Achav and Tzidkiyahu. They were doing that. They were pretending to be prophets for their own gain. So here's one conspiracy in which they tried to do it for their own gain. So Achav comes to Nebuchadnezzar's daughter and says, Amar Allah, he tells her, Kayamar Hashem, this is what God says. Hashmi el Tzidkiyahu. Submit. Literally listen, but submit to Tzidkiyahu. This is what Achav tells the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. Then Tzidkiyahu. Now Tzidkiyahu goes to her. Amar, and he says, Kayamar Hashem, this is what God says. Hashmi el Achav. Submit to Achav. So, submit means have relations with her. So each one said, but the other, go submit to him and submit to him. They conspired together so they each had a turn, essentially. So Azla, she goes, hearing this from both of them, something strange, something's off. The Amra Le'lavu, and she goes tells her father, Nebuchadnezzar. Amar La, he tells her, and Nebuchadnezzar tells his daughter, Elohim, their God, shall Elu of these two. Achav and Tzidkiyahu are claiming that God said in their name to submit to the other. So he says, their God in the name in which they speak. Soy Nezima hates lewdness. It's got a whole list of commandments that say not to behave this, not to behave that way. So what's going on? So he tells her, Ki osu l'gabach, next time they come to you, or when they come to you to actually ask you to fulfill their prophecy and submit, Shadinu l'gabai, send them to me. Ki osu l'gabah, when they came to her, she sent them off to their father. Amar lahu, he tells them, Man amar lachem, who told you to do this? To make my daughter submit. Amru, so they said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, told us. But, said Nebuchadnezzar, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, there are three other prophets, and their name is Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. Shalitinuhu, I asked them about this. I asked them about lewdness like this. And they told me, Asr, that's forbidden. Contradiction. Is your God contradicting? To you he said it's okay, and to them he said not okay. So Amar Lahu, so Achav and Tzidkiyahu tell Nebuchadnezzar, we are prophets just as equal as Chanani, Mishael, Azariah. God chooses to tell who he wants to what. So to Chanani, Mishael, Azariah, he didn't tell him to do this. But to us, Amar he did say. So Amar Lahu, so Nebuchadnezzar says, okay, no problem. I want to check you. I want to test you. Just like I tested them. How did I test Chanani, Mishael, Azariah? The same way I test Chanani, Mishael, Azariah. How did he test Chanani, Mishael, Azariah's authenticity? Throw them to the furnace. So I'll do the same to you if you guys are equal prophets. Amrulay. So Achav and Tzidkiyahu had to quickly come up with some way to survive this. So they said, Inun Tlasa, they were 3. Hava, they were. Banan, today were 2. So the power of 3 is strong enough to protect against the fire, not the power of 2. So it's not a good test. So Nebuchadnezzar says, Amar Lahu, so Nebuchadnezzar tells them, no problem. Find a third person to throw into the fire with you. No problem. You're saying 3 is going to protect you from the fire? Fine. Find a third guy and we'll chuck you all in. So Amru, so now they have to think quick. So they want to find the biggest tzaddik they can possibly find. So hopefully they'll survive in the merit of the tzaddik. Because they know they're not tzaddikim, they know they're lying. They know they're not going to survive this furnace. So they got to find a third party who maybe will help them survive. So Amru, so they tell Nebuchadnezzar, Yeshua Kohen Gadol. Bring Yeshua Kohen Gadol. Sabri, they were thinking, Lacey Yeshua, let's bring Yeshua, the Nafish Truse, who has lots of merit, and will protect us. Achsiu Shadinu.
Yeah, they put him down and they threw him into the fire.
Yeah, so Achsiu, they put him down, Shadinu, they put him in the fire. So says the Gemara. All 3 of them.
Who's the
Tzidkiyahu, Achav, and now Yeshua Kohen Gadol. They
went along with it?
No, he
was forced.
It was forced.
He was forced. Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian armies, centurions took him. You can ask him if he wants to. Nebuchadnezzar asked the 2 of them,
Okay.
You're saying you need 3? Get a third. Choose one, and we'll throw him in. So they picked the holiest guy they can possibly find.
The 2 of them.
Yeah.
The 2 of them found the holiest person they can possibly find, hoping that they would be survived in his merit. So they took Yeshua Kohen Gadol and they threw him in, all 3 of them.
In the furnace also?
Yeah,
into the furnace. And
in
Inu, the 2 of them, Acham and Tzidkiyahu, Iklu, they were toasted, as mentioned before. Yeshua and Kohen Gadol, Echrichu Manya, his clothing got singed.
But he was okay.
He was okay, although he was a little bit, the implication is he was somewhat, maybe a little bit hurt, but he wasn't burnt completely.
But why toasted and not burned right away?
Sorry?
It's a furnace, right? Furnace.
No, I mean they got burned first, but they kept them long enough. They got fully toasted.
Yeah, it must have burnt it, but what toasted means they flipped them over, turned around, make sure all sides are burnt.
All like charred.
Not just to the point that they're just died, but to the point that they're literally like a burnt toast.
Being burnt to a crisp.
I'm sure this is literally the physical interpretation. I'm sure there's more to it. Anyways, the Gemara concludes with the proof text.
No, what's important about Yeshua because that's the Torah for Hanukkah.
Yeah, so we'll just read the proof text, but the story will continue going on Monday. A little bit more to the story and some more details, some more depth.
Yeah.
But this is the gist of the story. Soon there's a conversation which ensues after analyzing why it is that Yeshua, that's what we're going to do on Monday, is why it is that Yeshua's clothing got singed, whereas Chanani, Mishael, Azariah completely came out unscathed, even their clothing emerged with them, which means the merit of Yeshua wasn't as high as the merit of Chanani, Mishael, Azariah, and we'll have to analyze that, God willing, on Monday. But for now, let's just conclude the verses. Shneimar, as the verse reads, Yeshua Kayan, Hashem, and we can see, I believe this is Nebuchadnezzar speaking.
No, this is Zechariah. Yeah, Zechariah.
But who's speaking? Zechariah himself is speaking.
Yeah, this is the Torah for Hanukkah.
Yeah. So Zechariah is speaking, as we see that Yeshua Kohen Gadol is standing before the angel of God, as if the angel of God is protecting him, and the same way the angel of God protected Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah. It says, God spoke to the Satan, who's responsible for this killing. Yigar Hashem b'cha, God should yell at you, as if to say, hold you back from doing your bidding. And
the verse continues,
is this not one who emerged from the fire? Yeah. So in other words, Hashem is screaming at the Satan to tell him that the his fire shall not affect Yeshua Kohen Gadol. So there we have a very fascinating story. And God willing, on Monday, what is the status of Yeshua Kohen Gadol? Who is he, and why is it that he was saved, but he wasn't saved at the same level as Hanan, Mishael, Razariah? That, God willing, on Monday. A wonderful Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you.